Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in your day. I hope you're having a fantastic one. Okay. Thank you, Anna, for commenting on my fantastic, wonderful drawing. I think we do need a little levity whenever we're going to get into math because this is our torture session. So, listen, guys, first and foremost, what I want to do is I want to answer some questions right up front and let you know a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. So, this is the Real Estate Exam Math Crash Course, or as I like to refer to it, your torture session with numbers. Mwahaha. So the evil laugh is necessary whenever we're talking about math. So what I'm going to tell you guys is this. We are going to go over a whole bunch of things that I think are relevant to the math portion of your exam. So this is going to be relevant for pretty much all your states. I'm not going to go into things that are going to be too insanely difficult. So what I do want to tell you is this. What I want to tell you is, while we're going over this stuff, if I do have a situation or a question or a problem that you might not be getting, keep in mind, you could pause this, you could rewind this, you could rewatch it again. Okay, so what I need you to do is this. I need you to hit that like button, hit subscribe. Remember, we also have our Agent School site, which is over on YouTube. Agent School, all one word. That's when you finally do pass your exam and you're ready to take that next step. Make sure you go on over there and hit that subscribe button. Watch a couple videos, hit that like button on the videos too. And so, someone said, what does Stu mean? I'm Stu. So for those of you who don't know me, I didn't do the introduction, so some of you don't know me. My name is Stu. I'm going to be helping you out. Welcome to the Stu Crew. We're going to have a ton of fun here. So it was funny. What does Stu mean? That was a good one. So thank you for that. Thank you for that little chuckle. So again, we're going to be going over the math here, and I know a couple of you guys had asked how long are we going to go. I didn't put a time frame on this one, so what I'm going to tell you is this. I'm going to go as long as my brain is working. So like I said, I'm going to try to go as slowly through the questions as possible so that you understand, okay, so that you get it. And remember, too, hit the like button, hit subscribe. What else I'm going to tell you is this. If you aren't a Prep Agent member already, what I want to tell you is this. Go over, sign up for Prep Agent, because we have more webinars there. We have more webinars behind the paywall. So you could just type in math. If you're just like, oh man, I really love this math stuff with Stu, take a look at all these past webinars that we have for our premium members. And you could also get practice exams. You could get a whole bunch of stuff. So if you go over to prepagent.com, we also offer private tutoring sessions. So if you go to Prep Agent, you will be able to find tutoring over there in the upper right-hand corner, private tutoring, and you can schedule some time one-on-one with either myself or Cynthia. So if you do have any questions at all in the future, you could schedule a 1-hour virtual session with us where we could clarify some things if you haven't gotten that already on the site. So I see a bunch of you guys are saying hello to me. Love it. Thank you so much. I see a couple people are saying they're taking their exams real soon. So guess what? We got to get into the nitty gritty. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go first and foremost go over some concepts. Okay. We're going to go over some concepts, and I'm going to be hitting on a couple different topics, okay? First, I'm going to be hitting on the amortization table. I'm going to be hitting on the discount points. I'm going to be hitting on prorations, okay? I'm going to be hitting on commission problems, and some area problems too. So we're going to do a whole bunch of things, but the first thing that I like to do is I like to basically give you some things that you should know top of the mind before you even start the real estate exam, as far as your math is concerned. First and foremost, I'm giving you tools that are going to help you. So the first tool that you're going to learn with me is this, and I'll go over debits and credits too. So that is definitely a big topic for a lot of people. So first one that we're going to talk about is any of our rate problems, any rate problem. So whenever we have a rate problem, here's what we're going to do. And remember this. This is what I'm going to tell you. We remember it this way, okay? It's the part over the base times the rate. And I'm going to show you how to use this formula, okay? And someone said, I'm in California. Do I need to know this? Okay? No. Not necessarily. California is very, 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 very simple math in California. They call it conversions. So if you're in California, no, don't need all this stuff. So what happens is this. I also remember this as Pabst Blue Ribbon. Okay, that's how I remember it. I remember my instructor, he always drank Pabst Blue Ribbon in the classroom. He was also 83, so he got to do whatever he wanted in the classroom. My mentor, my instructor, he always did that. He drank Pabst Blue Ribbon. So this is also referred to, some of you guys, as the T-chart. So a lot of you guys are probably saying, how and when do I use this? And that's a big question. And Nikki, I see you passed the exam. Congrats. So that's one of my students over there that passed, took a private lesson with me. So thank you so much for that. I see you put it in a couple times, so I wanted to at least say hello. But we got to get back to this because we got to get some other people passed. So what happens is this. Part over the base times the rate. Here's how we use it, and here's how we're going to apply it. Now, if you ever have a problem where you have a rate, and a rate is usually a percentage, and you're asking yourself this, I don't know what I'm going to do as far as the math is concerned. I'm a little puzzled, okay? What happens is the Pabst Blue Ribbon, or the part over the base multiplied by the rate, is going to help you identify what math you should be doing, okay? And let me explain how you use it, okay? So, first thing is this. You want to identify what it is that you're looking for. Are you looking for a part? Are you looking for a base? And are you looking for a rate, okay? So, once you identify which one you're looking for in a part over the base times the rate, what you're going to do is this. You're going to basically, so I'm going to redraw it. You're going to cross out what you're looking for. So if I'm looking for the rate, then that would be the part divided by the base, okay? So someone said, is this like a T-bar? This is 100% a T-bar, okay? So some of your instructors might have referred to it as that. I'm showing it to you, just maybe using a little different vernacular, okay, as far as the verbiage I'm using. But don't worry, it's the same thing. So if you recognize this as the T-bar, that is exactly what this is. So if you're looking for a rate, it would be the part divided by the base. And likewise, if you're looking for the base, it would be the part divided by the rate. And if you were looking for the part, it would be the base multiplied by the rate. Now, keep in mind this. I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks as we're moving along, okay? And what I need you to do is when I give you a tip or a trick, I need you to give me that thumbs up so I know that you're still with me and I know that you're following along. So what I'm going to tell you is this. If you approach a problem, okay, and you know how to do the math without any additional formulas like this or any additional stuff, what I need you to do is do what you feel comfortable doing so that it doesn't confuse you, okay? So that it doesn't confuse you. I'm giving you tools to potentially help you if you get stuck, right? If you get stuck, you could use this, okay? But if you already know how you're going to approach it and you're like, no, I don't need that. I know how I'm going to do a commission problem. I know how I'm going to do that. Fantastic. That's how we're going to do it. So thank you guys. Gold stars for everybody. Yeah. Awesome stuff. So let's talk about how we identify, okay? Because Daniel said, what does part and base stand for? Because that's a great question, because I think that a lot of people have trouble identifying the part, the base, and the rate. They're like, I don't even know how I would put it in there. So guess what? I want you to put a big smile in the chat right now if you have trouble finding out the part and the base and the rate. If you're like, I don't even know what's what, okay? I don't know my left from my right shoe. So give me a smile in the chat if that's a problem here, because I'm going to show you, I'm going to make it super easy, okay? So now what happens is this, okay? This right here, this is a pizza pie. Why is that a pizza pie? Because I like food. Everything reverts back to food. I'm a fat kid on the inside and on the outside. So you ready? Watch this. Watch this. I'm going to make this really simple for you. The base is the entire pie. The part is the slice you take. Watch this. I'm going to show you the stew slice. So some of you don't know how I cut my pizza pies, but watch this. That's how I cut my pizza pies. Okay, this is stew slice right over here. Smiley face for stew. So that would be the part. The entirety of it would be the base. then the percentage of which I took out, okay, the percentage that I took out, we would all be able to agree because we have eyeballs that I took 50% of the pie, okay? I took 50% of the pie. So here's what I'm going to tell you. If the rate at which you take the part out, listen to what I'm saying, and then I'll show you, okay? Listen to what I'm saying. If the rate at which you take your part out is going to be less than 100%, okay? So 100% is greater than the rate, then the base will always be bigger than the part. Think about this. You ready? Think about this. If I said to you, I take a slice that's 99%, right? 99%. Guess what? Isn't my whole entire pizza pie still going to be bigger? Because 100% is still always bigger than the part that I took out. So if the rate is less than 100%, it is going to be the base is bigger than the part. And conversely, we could say if the rate is greater than, okay, if the rate is greater than 100%, so let's say I had a really crazy day. You ready? I had a really crazy day, and someone said to me, Stu, how much of the pizza pie do you want? And I said 110% of the pizza pie. Then we know that the part is going to be bigger than the base. Give me a thumbs up if you got that, if that makes sense to you now. And we're going to do some questions where we're going to be able to apply this, and then we're going to do some questions where we're just going to use some critical thinking, okay? So that is a tool that you have, and keep in mind, this is a tool, okay? This is a tool to help you understand what arithmetic you're going to be doing, okay? So that is the situation with part over the base times the rate. So we're going to apply that to some things. And what we're going to do is this. We're still going to get to a couple other concepts. So let's hang tight and let's talk about the area. And keep in mind too, because I know a lot of you guys said, hey, could you repeat that? Hey, could you go over that? Here's what I would tell you. We would only be able to do one concept if I repeated it as many times as you guys wanted me to. So keep in mind, that's why I say to you guys, you have the rewind button, you have the pause button, you can go backwards, and I am going to be able to show you in examples when we start applying them. I'm just trying to give you some base stuff here. So let's now talk about this. You ready? We have to know how many square feet are in an acre. Okay, we have to know how many square feet are in an acre. So I'm going to give you some tips to remember that. So how many square feet are in an acre? Okay, how many square feet are in an acre? 43,560. Yes, that is how many square feet are in an acre, and how I remember that is 4 old men driving 35 in a 60. Some of you remember 7-Eleven, okay? Some of you remember 7-Eleven. And what I will tell you is this. So I'll show you the 7-Eleven method, okay, for those of you who remember it that way. They do 4 plus 3 is 7, 5 plus 6 is 11, and they say 7-Eleven has donuts. That's how some people get it. Or they do 4 old women driving 35 in a 60. So that is the situation there. And let's do this. Now, what I want to do, and I'm just giving you some stuff to prepare us for when we get into the questions, because we're not even at the questions yet. I'm giving you some stuff that you should be knowing automatically right up front. Now, we want to talk about area, okay? We want to talk about area. So look at this shape. What is that shape? Is that a square? Is that a rectangle? Or is it just a poorly drawn square? I think it's a poorly drawn square. Someone said, I love this. Thank you. And listen, like I said, I'm glad that a lot of you guys are liking this. Remember, just like I said, hit that like button for me so that everyone knows that you like this. And keep in mind, we do have this on replay. And we have a bunch more webinars as well, just on math. And we're going to be going for a while today, so I haven't even gotten to examples. So this is a lovely square. So it's a squiggly square. Yeah, it is. So let me ask you this. How do I find the area of the square? How do I find an area of a square? Let me erase some of this stuff so it's clean. Boom. There we go. How do I find an area of a square? So you're going to multiply the two sides together. Yep, you multiply the sides, okay? So that is the situation there, okay? Someone said I could use a sticky note as a square. No, I like drawing my squares because here's why. I'm going to show you. Actually, I could probably do a sticky note. You're right. It would make it cleaner, but I don't want to do that. Imperfections are beautiful. So let's do this. Let me ask you this, okay? Let me ask you this. How do we find the area of, because I'm going to move this up a little bit. How do we find the area of this shape? And this is a triangle or a squiggly triangle, as you guys would tell me. Okay? So that is the situation there. Squiggly triangle. All right? Squiggly triangle. How do I find the area of a squiggly triangle? Find the area of a squiggly triangle by doing this, okay? We would do the base times the height. So it's basically going to be this multiplied by this. And then you're going to divide it in half. So it's 1/2 the base times the height. And why is it 1/2 the base times the height? Well, let me show you a little something. Let me go up here, okay? So someone said, B44 Harris said, I've learned more from you guys than my class. Well, that's why we're here. That's why we love making sure that you guys get something out of this. That's why we want to do these, more often. We do these nice long webinars for you. Like I said, I am going to be going for a little bit today. So please write any questions that you have in the chat. And keep in mind, if you aren't able to follow along or you need me to repeat something, I'm going to try to go as slow as possible. However, you do have the capabilities of pausing, rewinding, and watching this again. So keep that in mind, guys. Watch this. I'm going to show you what happens here, why we have it, okay? Because wouldn't we agree that basically a square or a rectangle is just two triangles, right? So if we take this two sides together and then we just divide it in half, we would get the area of a triangle, okay? And keep in mind, that's how Stu likes to have his grilled cheese cut, okay? So basically, if you're going to cut my grilled cheese for me, this is what I'm a big kid at heart, so my wife sometimes, if I'm having a good day, my wife will make me grilled cheese with the crust cut off, and she'll cut it right down the angle like that, and I'll get two triangles. Grilled cheese is the best thing. I don't care how old you are, so give me a thumbs up for grilled cheese, and that's how you'll remember triangles and finding the area there. Who else likes grilled cheese? Okay, so yes, you have to take the crust off. That is an important thing. So now what I want to do is this. I want to get into actually applying some of these things, okay? I want to get into first and foremost, I want to get into amortization tables, okay? I want to get into an amortization table, okay? Because on most of the states in which you are going to get math questions. So basically, you won't see this in something like California. Okay, so everyone could be jealous of California right now. You won't see this in California, but almost every other state will have this. I'm going to give you a couple of things in regards to the amortization table. First and foremost, what I want you to understand is this. We're going to talk about what an amortization table shows you. The next thing we're going to do is talk about some good test-taking tips, okay? So listen up. Perk your ears up if you haven't been listening to me in regards to this. They should provide you, okay? They should provide you with an amortization table. So when you first get into the test, okay, When you first get into the testing center, what I want you to do is ask them, are there any, so not right up front. Don't go up to the counter and go, do you have an amortization table? No. Listen, when it's an appropriate time for you to ask some questions, one of the questions you want to ask is, are there going to be amortization table questions? Okay. And are these, is there and where is your amortization table? And I'll tell you why, okay? I'll tell you why. They are human, okay? These proctors are human, all right? And what happens is this. They sometimes forget to remind you where it is, and then you don't realize that you need to use this or that this is going to help you, okay, in regards to the test. Because this is typically, and each testing center is different, okay? So what happens is this. It's something that you do want to ask your proctor if there's going to be amortization table questions and if this is going to be something that they provide, and if so, where is it? Okay, sometimes it's in a cubicle, sometimes it's in a link on the computer, so it really depends. So let's take a look at this. So the amortization chart, basically, here's what it is. And I'm going to just move this Post-it note out for a second so that you can see this whole thing. So does anyone know what exactly we're looking at? What are these numbers in the middle? Okay, these numbers in the middle. What are those? What are these numbers right here, okay, that I'm pointing at? Okay. What are those? Can you tell me what in amortization table is actually showing us? So anybody who's live with me, type it in the chat right now. And what I'm going to tell you is a couple things about the amortization chart. So someone said, no idea. That's why I'm here, right? So the situation here is this. There's only 2 questions they could ask you about an amortization table, and I'm going to go through each one of these, okay? I'm going to take you through one question, and then I'm going to take you through another question. And basically, once you do each of those questions, there's really not much else that they could ask you in regards to an amortization table. There really isn't. It's either going to be one way or it's going to be another way. So here's what it is. So Ashton wrote in the chat, monthly payments. Bam. Yeah, absolutely. This is showing you monthly payments per $1,000 of a mortgage, okay, based on an interest rate and a term, okay? So this is your principal and interest. So some of you guys might have heard of the terms of the abbreviation PITI, okay? PITI. What does PITI stand for? So what does PITI stand for? What does that stand for? What does PITI stand for? Okay. Someone said, I wish I could take the test from home. Right now, as we are speaking, today, March 2nd, 2021, I do not recommend the test at home. For the states that have it approved, okay, it's not great, okay? So it's not great. So I would definitely not advise to it. And like I said, that's Stu's opinion, okay? It could be something that it could get better over time. Some people have had some great experiences with it. Not in my opinion, okay? So that's, like I said, my personal opinion. So this stands for principal, interest, tax, and insurance, okay? So what happens is this, okay? The situation here is right here, the amortization chart, okay, is going to be a situation that it's showing you the principal and interest on a particular loan, okay, on a particular loan. So, and some people are saying, hey, why don't you recommend the test at home if they're offering it? I've just heard some bad experiences. That's all. I've heard some bad experiences just kind of across the board. It's like I said, I'm giving you my personal opinion based on feedback from students. I have not personally taken it from home. I do not know the exact process, okay? So that's my thoughts right there, just to kind of elaborate on my reason why. So now, let's take a look at this. I'm going to start asking you the first question. So here's how the questions are going to be framed. I'm going to verbally give it to you, but it's going to basically be how much can we afford as far as a loan is concerned, okay? So here's how the first question is going to be framed. They're going to say, based on a term and a percent, okay? So what you would do is this. You would go over to the term, 20 years, and you would go down to 3%, okay? And you would have that number right there. Now, that is very tiny. I do not expect you to be able to read it on my screen. Hence, why I have the little Post-it note right over here. So we're going to use this little guy right here. This is the number that we're looking at. So what happens is this. They're going to say a buyer is approved for a 20-year loan at 3%. Okay? Then how much could they afford if their budget for principal and interest is $1,750? So what we're going to do is this. We're going to, right now, start doing some math. So another tip I'm going to give you when it comes to the math, I want you to make sure you plug your numbers into your calculator multiple times, okay? Plug it in multiple times, okay? Because that is very important, because you get the butterfingers. You get the butterfingers, meaning basically what's going to happen is this. You might punch the numbers in wrong. So who thinks they know what the first step would be in trying to figure out the monthly, but the how much we could afford as far as the loan is concerned if they give you a monthly budget of $1,750, okay, and they're approved for a 20-year loan at 3%, which the monthly payments per $1,000 is going to be $5.54598, okay? So someone said, I didn't know this was part of the real estate classes. Yeah, this is something that most states have an amortization table question on them. This is usually 2 questions or so. So someone said, find the annual amount. What I would tell you is this: a lot of students do that as the first first thing, and I will tell you this: we already have 2 terms that are in monthly numbers. We have the monthly payments of principal and interest per $1,000 of a mortgage. And then we have a budget that is also monthly. So if we multiplied this by 12, we would also have to multiply this by 12. So that doesn't make sense to do right now. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to take the monthly budget of $1,750 and we're going to divide it by 5.54598, which, and listen to what that's going to give us. That's basically telling us how many times does 5.54598 fit into the monthly budget. Now, a bunch of you are using also the interest rate right now. Here's what I'm going to tell you. The term, if you're using an amortization table, the years of the loan and the interest rate, you only need to use to find the middle number. That's it. You don't need to multiply, do anything there, okay? So this is the situation here. We need to figure out, okay? We need to figure out how many times this monthly payment fits into this budget, okay? And someone said, why would we not divide it by 1,000? Well, what happens is this. Dividing by 1,000 is not going to be relevant here because the $1,000 is the monthly payment. This number right here, 5.54598, is representative of one payment per month for a $1,000 mortgage. So we're working with a monthly budget here, and what we want to do is we want to figure out how many times that monthly payment could fit into our budget. And the number that we're going to get is going to be, okay, I see a bunch of you are typing it in, 3.15, and it's 0.54, but we're just going to keep it at 315 to make it nice, even number. So it fits into it 315 times. So the answer is going to be this. Watch this. We're asking how much we could afford. So how much we could afford in regards to a home loan. So if this payment fits into our budget 315 times, then what happens is this. In order to find out how much of a loan we could afford, we would multiply 315 times 1,000. Okay? And that's going to give us $315,000 as far as a loan amount, what that buyer could afford with that budget. So what happens is this. You're going to start at a monthly budget, and then you're going to end at a loan amount. So here's what's going to happen. You're either going to start at a loan amount and try to get to a monthly budget, or you're going to start at a monthly budget and go to a loan amount, okay? So if someone asks, so this is a great question, will the test rounded or expected to be the true answer? So what I'm going to tell you is this. The test will typically, it will be very apparent to you. They're not going to have four answers that are going to be, that are going to be, very different from, that are going to be very close to one another. So you're going to basically get to a point where you are going to, you're going to know if you had to round or not, okay? So this is, and keep in mind, Gabriel said, does this include the interest payments? Yes, because here's what happens. This number right here is the principal and interest. It is the principal and interest. And keep in mind, guys, too, you could rewind this, you could pause, because this is something that not every single one of you is going to get it exactly the first time. Not every single one of you is also going to get it the way that I explain it, okay? So someone asked, what is the 5.54598 called? That is the monthly payment of principal and interest per $1,000 of a mortgage, okay? So, yeah, this is just like a multiplication table. You have a rate up here. You have, a rate in the row, in the column, and then you have the term up here, all right? So the situation is this. You take the monthly budget, divide it by the monthly payments per 1,000, and then you take that and multiply it by 1,000, because, again, this is the monthly payments per $1,000 of a mortgage. Do you always multiply it by 1,000? Yes, every amortization table is per $1,000 of a mortgage. So let's move on to, the next question, okay? So the next question that they could ask you, okay? The next question that they could ask you is going to be this. We start with a loan amount, all right? And we're going to start with this one over here. So we're going to use the same number because I have that in that Post-it note right there. They're going to start with a loan amount and say, how much would our monthly budget be for principal and interest? Okay? How much would our monthly payments be for principal and interest? Okay? That if we had a $375,000 loan at 20 years for 3%. Okay? So, what do you guys think the first step would be in this situation? So you see how we did it here. And think about this. What I'm going to tell you is this. Every single step is on the page right now. Every single step that you potentially need is right there in front of you. Okay? So what do you think that first step would be if we wanted to figure out how much their monthly payment is going to be if we had a loan of $375,000 on a 20-year 3% loan? And that would be the 5.54598. So I like it. I like it a lot. There's someone with the right answer. And a couple people with the right answer. We are 100% going backwards. So watch this. Once you know one way, okay, once you know one way, you are going to be able to do it the opposite way. All right. So 375,000, we want to figure out how many 1,000s are in that. So we divide it by 1,000. Okay. We divide it by 1,000, and here's what we get 375. There are 375 1,000s in the loan. Okay. Next one. Okay. So Allison asked, do you not have to divide by 12 months at some point? Nope. Because here's the thing. Everything is in monthly. So if everything's in monthly, it doesn't. The only reason you need the years and the percentage is to get this number on the chart. That is it. You do not need to do anything else with the annual or the interest rate. Once you have that number, you just keep going like this. And it's a very simple, there's not many math, there's not much math to do. Then, once you have 375, what you do is you multiply that by the monthly payments per 1,000. And that should give you somewhere around 2,079, if my math is right. And I'm rounding up. I'm being, I'm being generous there. So someone said, how do you distinguish when to multiply or divide by 1,000? So the equation goes like this. If you have a monthly payment, okay, and you start with that, you're going to be dividing by the monthly payments on the amortization table and then multiplying that by 1,000, okay? Then, if you have the 375,000, the loan amount, you would be dividing by 1,000 because this right here is the monthly payments, principal and interest per $1,000. Okay? So, here's the thing. It's just a matter of doing this one way or another. This is literally these two Post-it notes right here that I've had up here. It's the only two ways that you're going to do it. You either have a monthly budget that you're looking for, or you have a monthly budget you're starting with. That's it. So, let's go to something else that I could fry your brains in. Let's try another problem. You guys ready? So give me a thumbs up if you're ready to move away from amortization tables for a little bit. Because what we want to do is we want to put some of our brain juices to work. You ready? And I know you guys love my drawings, right? So let's do this, all right? Let's look at the next thing. And like I said, you guys got to realize that with the math, there is some stuff that you guys are going to get, okay? And there's some stuff that it's not going to stick with you. And like I said, you might need someone else to explain it. You know, it might not be a you problem. It might very well be a Stu problem. So again, I explain it a certain way, but keep in mind too, you might need to see it explained a couple different ways or do it a couple different times on your own. That's why I encourage you guys to do that. That's why I tell you guys, hey, you can pause. You can hit that rewind, but what I need from you, because I'm trying to give you as much love as possible, I need you to throw some love my way. Remember, hit that like button, okay? Hit that subscribe, okay? Because like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of different things today, and I am going to be going for a little bit, so I don't want you guys to get discouraged if you can't get one of the concepts right away, because again, that might not be, okay? That might not be something that's right up your alley. And Natalie said, my in-laws are realtors and I never heard them do this type of math. Yeah, they would never do that. They would never do that, okay? You'll never need an amortization table outside of this. This is financing, okay? So let's take a look at this, okay? This is a 6-acre lot. If I told you that the depth is 300 feet, how big is the frontage? Okay, how big is the frontage? Okay, how big is that going to be? So guys, let's take a look at this question. This is a nice simple area question. Okay, Janet said, love you, Stu. I love you right back. I love all you guys. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Because guess what? Math hurts my brain, too. I'm human like you guys. You think I like doing math? Actually, I do like doing it, okay? So, guys, and like I said, this might not be your thing, too. Just keep that in mind. So if you guys are beating yourself up over this, don't, okay? Give yourself some love. Like, this is not easy. This might not be your thing. And you don't need the math to pass, okay? So that's the situation there. So 6-acre lot. So what's one of the first things we want to do? I want to see someone in the chat to type in what our first step is, okay? What our first step is, okay? Natalie told me I love math. I do. I really do. I'm a sick puppy. Okay. So here it is. You ready? Let me see if I could put a post-it note here, and I'll show you my steps as I'm moving along, okay? As I'm moving and grooving. So the first step that we're going to do is this. We're going to multiply the 6 acres by 43,560 because we want to convert everything into square feet. Here's the thing. Whenever you see two different measurements, okay, guys, and they love doing this to you. Whenever they see two different measurements, okay, always get them same. Always get them the same, okay? Or as we like to say in Spanish, mismo, get them the same, okay? So that's the situation there. You want to make sure that everything is going to be the same. So let's get our acres into feet, right? So we're going to do 6 times 43,560. And we remember that because we remember 4 old men driving 35 and a 60, right? So let's get our calculator out and make sure that we're punching it in a couple times. Why? Because the Butterfingers, okay? So that's going to be 261,360. 261,360, okay? So that is the size, that's the area of this lot. It's 261,360 square feet, okay? Square feet, okay? Math makes my brain hurt too. I'm with you guys. That's why I don't put a time limit on this. When my brain gets squishy, that's when we give up. So let's take a look. What is our next step going to be? Our next step is going to be, someone said I actually understood it. Hooray. Yeah. Like I said, there's going to be math that you're going to totally get, and it's going to feel rewarding, and then there's math that you're not going to get. We're going to divide it by 300. Because here's why. You ready? And I'm going to show you kind of like the arithmetic behind this. So what happens is 300 times something, and we're going to identify that as X, equals 261,360. So what we have to do to isolate X, to just get this on its own, basic algebra, we just divide each side. So that would cancel out, and we divide 261 by 300. And that would give you, okay, let's see. I'm doing the math myself because guess what? I'm doing this with you guys as we're going along, okay? So don't think that I'm skimping out on you guys. I'm doing the math with you. 871.2, okay? So Debbie said, I love algebra, but it's been a long time. Yeah, absolutely. So I always say this to people. It is definitely it's challenging. It is a challenging thing to get your brain to start doing this again. So that is how you figure out square footage, right? And keep in mind, anything that abuts to the street, okay? So if it's abutting to the street, that's going to be called the frontage. So this right here is the frontage or the front foot, okay? Whew. Let's keep going. Let's do another one. Okay, I got another one for you guys. So, let's do another one. So the first thing that we're going to do is this, okay? The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to figure out, so we just did square feet. I'm going to remind you how to do something else, which I think is going to be a little tricky for some of you guys. So I'm going to actually write a question for you guys. This is a question that you have never seen before. You ready? So a building is constructed 5 stories high. Okay. The frontage of the building, okay, is 300 feet. Okay. Wide. We'll do 300 feet wide. And 500 feet deep. Each story is 7 feet tall. Okay. So 800. So Tiffany asked me on the last question, just to show you guys one more time, just to go over and make sure we didn't do it. The 871.2 is the frontage. Okay, that's the number that we were looking for. We were solving for the frontage, so it's 871.2. The building is constructed 5 stories high. Each story is 7 feet tall. Okay. If the cost to build this building is 50 cents, actually 51 cents per cubic foot, how much would the building cost to build? Stu, why'd you do this to us? Why'd you show us no love? Why'd you show us no love just now? That's brutal. That's brutal. So guys, what do you think you have here? What do you think you have here? So let me ask you this. What are we going to do to solve for this? Okay? So the frontage of the building is 300 feet. It's 500 feet deep. Okay? It is 5 stories high. Okay? Some of you are already giving me numbers. No, that's evil. Let's go through this. Okay? So let me draw for you a little bit so that you can understand. So square feet, we understand how to figure out square feet, right? Square feet, okay, is going to be just the side multiplied by the side, right? But cubic feet are different. Cubic feet, also known as basically volume, okay? I'll show you. I'll do some math for you. This is a 3-dimensional square, okay? So what happens is it has 2 sides, okay? One is 300 feet, so the depth is 300, okay? Actually, no, the width of the building is 300, so this is 300, and then it is 500 deep. So then this one right here, the depth is 500. And we said that it is 7 feet tall. So the height of it is 7 feet. Now, situation is this, okay? We have to figure out what math we're going to do in order to figure out each of the cubic feet. So now, watch the steps that we're going to take. And I'm going to erase this now that I've shown this to you. I'm going to erase it, and I'm going to start doing some math. You ready? So, now that I've kind of shown you a little bit about how we're going to do it, let's jump right into the math of it. So, the first thing that we're going to do is figure out what one story is. So, we have 300 times 500 times 7 feet, okay? Because what happens is this. When you find cubic feet, there are 3 numbers. So it's 300, okay, times 500 times 7. So that would be 1,050,000. Okay, 1,050,000. Now, here's what we're going to do. So let me ask you this. What is that number indicative of? What is that number? Okay. Allison, I know, I'm frying your brain here. I'm frying your brain. But what I'm trying to do is this, okay? What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get you guys to see different things that you might not have seen in your classes, okay? So Ashton, bam. That is the area for one, that is the cubic footage for one story. I don't know is it story or story? It's one of those, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So my spelling is not my strong suit. So that's what it is. That is the cubic feet for one floor, okay? And how many floors high is it going to be? It's going to be 5 floors high. So we're going to do 1,050,000 times 5. Okay? And someone's correcting me. Story. Thank you. I'm awful at that, so don't mind me. So let's do this math. You ready? And that should be 1,000, or actually 1,050,000, right? Times 5 is 5,250,000. Okay? And now that's the total cubic footage for the building. So what's our final step? What's the last step we're going to do? Okay, what's the last step we're going to do, guys? Okay. We're going to multiply that by 51 cents. Okay, 5,250,000. Okay. Multiplied by 51 cents. Make sure you put your decimal point in. Okay. Make sure you put your decimal point in. 5,250,123 times 0.51 equals, okay, let's take a look, equals 2,677,500. So, give me a thumbs up if you got that. Give me a thumbs up if you got that. So, and I just want to do a couple quick math things on my calculator. Okay. I'm just doing one thing for you guys. Give me 1 second. Okay. So, some of you guys have done. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Okay. First and foremost is this. Okay. You're going to, if you did this a different way, and understand this, and I'm always going to say this, okay? So what happens with the math is, if you did it a different way, still got the right answer, you're fine. You're fine. You're totally fine. So, do it the way that you feel comfortable, okay? Do it the way that you feel comfortable. Now, what I'm going to say is this. I see a whole bunch of congrats going in there. Yeah, absolutely. Congrats to Evelyn, it looks like. It looks like a couple other people. Let me see. Samantha, Stu, you and I did only one one-on-one session for math, and I passed in Tennessee first try. Bam! Bam! That's it. Stu Crew down 1. I love it. And guys, if you do want to sign up for a private tutoring session, just keep in mind, sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes you do need to have a one-to-one session where we go over some things that you're not getting, if that's what you want to do, if you want to tackle that, if you want to try to do that. But keep in mind this, and I always say this to students, if math isn't coming to you, don't worry. Brittany came into the chat late and she said Skittles for everybody. Absolutely, Skittles for everyone. Oh my gosh, Brittany's one of my regulars in my Prep Agent Premium webinars. So, guys, if you haven't signed up for Prep Agent already and you need some help passing the exam, we do a lot of free things like this, but also keep in mind there's a ton of stuff that we have in the members only section. So this is my little plug. Basically tell you guys, hey, look, we have practice exams, we have flashcards, we have a vocab worksheet. All of this stuff is right there with you in the member dashboard. And you see a bunch of people are saying, hey, do it. It's well worth it. Guess what? There's a lot of other webinars that we have there. And we also offer them live weekly behind the paywall. So what happens is this. You guys sign up. You could get a lot of the private sessions that we offer, such as the Prep Agent Premium webinars. And you also get, if you miss it, let's say you're out, You're dancing. I don't know. Maybe you're going down to Florida. You're going to a nightclub. You're gonna just boogie woogie a little bit. I don't know what you cool cats are doing. So what happens is this: you miss the webinar live. Don't worry. You can watch a historical content. You can watch our historical content because we have everything recorded. And if you need to search for something, you could simply do this. Okay, you could simply do math. Okay. And you can see all the math sessions I've done, okay? Or as I like to refer to them as, okay, as the torture sessions. So, guys, what I will tell you is this. Let's keep moving and grooving, though. Let's look at another question. And what we're going to do is this. We're going to talk about debits and credits now. Debits and credits, okay? So, debits and credits are going to be something that you guys really struggle with. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go into a concept and then we're going to go into a question, okay? So the first concept that we're going to go into is we're going to talk about payments in advance, okay? And then payments in arrears, okay? So advance and arrears, okay? Advance and arrears. So what does it mean if I paid for something in advance? If I paid for something in advance, what does it mean? What does it mean if we pay for something in advance? And Evelyn said there's only 8 math questions in the exam. Listen to what I'm going to tell you. Yeah, that's why I tell you guys. Listen. I'm here to help you if you want the help, okay? That's what Stu's here for. That's what Prep Agent's here for. But what I'm going to tell you is this. If you're not getting it, you shouldn't be beating yourself up, okay? So advance means it's prepaid, okay? Advance means it's prepaid, okay? It's prepaid, okay? Yeah. So watch this. I'm going to draw a timeline, okay? We're going to draw a timeline. We're going to doodle. We're going to stoodle doodle. You ready? So let's say this is a timeline. And what is the time frame? I don't know. It could be a month, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, whatever the situation is. In the timeline, what happens is this. The person who owned the home, typically the seller, okay, they owned it here, and they paid through till the end of the timeline, whether that's a year, whether that's a month, whatever the case may be, okay? Then what happens is this. You have a crazy cat buyer that comes in, and they purchase the home, let's say here, okay? Then what happens is this. The seller's like, hey, this time right here from when the buyer purchased the property till the end of the timeline, I shouldn't be responsible for that, okay? I don't want to have to pay for that. And the attorneys, the title companies are like, don't you worry. You don't have to cover that. So if something is paid in advance by the seller, okay, then what happens is it is a credit to the seller, debit to the buyer. So if it is paid in advance, it is a credit to the seller, debit to the buyer, okay? So let me ask you this, okay? Let me ask you this question. What is a debit and what is a credit? Need to make sure we know what those are because I'm using that vernacular and we need to know this, okay? So, and I see a whole bunch of you guys giving me props, okay? Pixie Glam said, I'm my own worst critic. Yeah, you guys are tough on yourselves. You're like, oh, I got to be perfect. Listen, although I think I'm amazing, I'm not perfect. I'm tough on myself too, but I've also come to terms with the fact that you don't need to be perfect. And that's why I tell you guys as we're going through this, I'm like, hey, don't beat yourself up. If you're like, hey, that turned my brain into mushy potatoes, this could be a total Stu problem. This could be a, hey, that's just not for you problem. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all, okay? So a credit, okay? A credit means you're getting money, okay? Credit means there's money owed to you. Debit means there's money that you owe. Credit, I'm getting something. Debit, I'm giving something, okay? So what happens is now we're going to talk about paid in arrears. So what does arrears mean, okay? Arrears. Just like saying that word sometimes. What does that mean, guys? If you're here with me in the chat, okay? Brittany said, if you're a member of the Stu Crew, you're good to go. Guess what? You guys are all honorary members of the Stu Crew. Whenever you're in any of my live webinars or any of my recorded webinars, you're watching any of the material that we have up here, you're always a member of the Stu Crew. And I love every single one of you. I love you like family. So that's why I tell you guys the information that I would tell my own family. So that means that it's paid for time that has occurred. Okay? For time that has occurred, for stuff that has happened, okay? So watch this, arrears. Now, I'm going to draw it with my handy-dandy marker. So we're going to get the timeline up again, okay? So let's take a look. What arrears is this. Arrears is going to be when the buyer pays at the end of the term, okay? And all the way going back. So now what happens is this. The buyer's going to say this. Watch this. We'll put the closing smack dab here. And the buyer says, hey, I don't want to pay for that time that the seller was in the home. So here's what's going to happen. The buyer, okay, the buyer is going to do this. They're going to say, okay, they're getting a credit the buyer, debit the seller, okay? Now, that is 100% the situation there in regards to that. So let me ask you this. Does that kind of clear it up for you guys? And what I'll tell you is this. So some people are asking, are the private tutoring sessions included for Prep Agent members? They are not an inclusive service. However, what I will tell you is this. You do not need to be a Prep Agent member to sign up for private tutoring. So if you just want to have a little private time with myself or Cynthia, who's the other private tutoring instructor, you could do that. You could definitely do that. But what I will tell you is this. It's something that you should definitely, I always say this, you want to get the best bang for your buck, you want to know the truth, bottom line is, you should be signing up for Prep Agent if you haven't passed the exam, okay? But, again, you can still stay here and watch this for me, okay? Watch this with me, because I always love having people, whenever I'm coming on here, I'm here to help you guys, and I appreciate you guys coming on and just watching this. So, thank you. And again, what I need you to do, hit the like button, hit subscribe. So, yes, this is going to be a positive for the buyer and the seller. And also, too, the reason why I kind of take my time and do this is because I want you to see the visuals, too. I don't like taking the visuals down, just so you guys know kind of like the method behind my madness. If you're like, hey, Stu's spending a little bit of time, talking to us and doing all this kind of stuff. That's because when I draw something up there, I want you to be able to screenshot it, pause it, kind of take that in, kind of absorb it, get the woosah going, okay? So that's why I would tell you guys, that's why I spend a little bit of time. I don't like taking visuals down from the screen right away. And Matt said, thank you for taking the time to break down these questions. And absolutely, I always try for you guys. So now, let's talk about this, okay? We're going to give an example. Yeah, we're definitely going to go to a question. Guess what? Stu's going to write down one of his evil questions. So let's take a look at this question. You ready? So, home is sold. Not a home. A home is sold on July 5th. The taxes have been paid in advance for the year. The annual tax bill is $5,689. What will be the credits and debits, if any, at closing? Now, okay, Daniel said, I never had this fun doing math before. So thanks, Stu, and thanks, fellow attendees. Yeah, that's why I always love coming here. I always like, listen, if anything, you'll at least laugh once, okay? So give me a thumbs up for that even if you're not getting the math, you're like, all right, your jokes are good. Your jokes are on point. If you had a knock-knock joke in there, it would be great. So let's talk about a couple things, okay? We're going to be doing, this is payments in advance. And here's the thing. Payments in arrears is just the same thing once you get the concepts down. So let's talk about this, okay? So the taxes had been paid in advance. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Let's draw it out. Let's do our little timeline, right? That means that the seller paid for them here through the end of the year, okay? And then the closing occurred on July 5th. Now, a couple things, okay? A couple things to note. And I'm going to put this over here in like a little separate, smaller post-it note. Whenever we prorate, this is what it's called. It's called proration, okay? Whenever we prorate, all right, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this size right for you guys. We use what's called the banking calendar, which is 360 days in a year, okay? 30 days in a month. Okay, 360 days in a year, 30 days in a month. So what happens is this. We're going to be prorating based on that. So now let me ask you this. The questions will typically give you, it will tell you if you're doing anything that is that is going to be contrary to this. And I'll give you another tiny post-it note, okay? Another tiny post-it note, okay? And this post-it note is going to say this. Unless stated otherwise, the buyer is responsible for closing day. Okay? So unless it states otherwise, the buyer is responsible for closing day. That's my standpoint, but they typically will clarify it for you. So what I need to do is this. I need to figure out, okay, the situation here. I need to figure out what we're going to be doing. So are we debiting or crediting who? So I want to ask you that because we just came off of explaining debits and credits a little bit. So now in a proration problem, who's getting debited, who's getting credited? Type it in the chat for me, guys, so I know that you're with me. So debit the buyer, credit the seller, okay? Yeah, because it's been paid in advance by the seller, right? So let's just write that down over here. We're going to debit buyer, okay, and credit seller. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So here's what I like to do, okay? Whenever I have an annual number, okay, the very, very, very first thing I do, always, 100% of the time, is I get a daily number. So I take 5,689, okay, and I divide it by 360, okay? I divide it by 360, and I get, let's see what we get. Because this is, and again, this is how I do the math. You don't need to do it my way, but I'm showing you my way. Because I don't know how to do it any other way. So we divide it by 360 and we get 15.80. Okay, 15.80. Okay. So that is our daily number. Okay. Okay, that's our daily taxes. So no matter what, whether we're debiting, crediting, any of this stuff, I always, 100% of the time, just get a daily number because that's going to be useful for us. So let's see this. We're going to debit the buyer for what they owe, okay? So Tina said, what happened to the other 5 days in the 365? What happens is this. We work off of what is referred to whenever we prorate in financing or in taxes or at closings to simplify things so we don't have to figure out, okay, are there 28 days here? Are there 31 days in this month? Are there 30 days in that month? Basically, what happens is this. They consider every month to be 30, which would actually, knock out 5 days on the calendar month. So that's what happens there. It's basically, it reduces everything, all the 31-day months to a 30-day month, and it increases February to a 30-day month, okay? So that's basically the situation there. So, okay, what happens is this. We're going to basically try to figure out, okay, so, yeah, and someone said it makes all months created equal. So how many days did you guys have? You guys have a bunch of different days. So let's think about this. You ready? So The 5th, so there are 30 days in July. So there are 30 days in July because every month is the same. And what I do is I subtract out how many days the seller is responsible for. So the seller is responsible for 4 days. Okay? So that would give us 26 days in July that this buyer would be responsible for. And now we have to figure out, okay, that brings us all the way to the end of July. So then we have August, September, October, November, and December. So that's 5 months times 30, which would be 150. And what we're finding out days in the remaining calendar year. Okay? Because remember, we're working off of a 360-day calendar. Okay? 5 months times 30, right? So that would mean that this 176 days that the buyer is responsible for. So, what does that mean, guys? What does that mean in regards to this? In regards to this question, that means that we have a final step. 176 times our daily number, because we already did the daily number, and that's 15.8. And that equals, let me do the math, 176 times 15.8 is 2,780, okay, and 80 cents. So, great question that just came in. Should we bring our calculator? Listen to what I'm going to tell you and here's the thing, I'm going to keep this up on the screen so that you guys can take a look at it, see it, kind of absorb it. Go woo-saw as I kind of chat with that. And of course, if you guys have any other questions, any other random one-off questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those as well. So, what I will tell you is this. You should definitely bring a calculator. What kind of calculator should you bring? Not your phone. Not your phone. Not your... not a graphing calculator, not a scientific calculator. Listen to me. If you spent more than $5 on it at CVS, okay? If you spent more than $5 on it at CVS, then what happens is this, okay? You spend too much, okay? Basically, get a dual-powered calculator, okay? Get a dual-powered calculator. Let me see if I could... So let me just put this in. So if I might have had it a little too big for you guys to see. So there we go. So that's the situation with this. Don't bring anything super complicated. Okay? Stu, is it always correct to use the 360 days, or could they be looking for the number using a 365 calendar? The reason why I ask is that I've seen other examples using the 365 calendar. Sure, absolutely. So here's the thing. They could use a 365-day calendar. However, okay, default should be 360. If they don't tell you anything, it's a 360, okay? Because in financing, when prorating, like if you were talking about the practice, like if Stu was, okay, if Stu was doing a closing, it would be a 360 30-day. That's real life practice, okay? So, and also they do provide calculators too, okay? So someone asked, why is it 5 months instead of 6? Because what happens is I figured out how many days were remaining in July, okay? So that brings us to the end of July. So now we have August as 1 month, September, October, November, and December. The way I'm counting that on my pudgy little fingers is that's a 5. So that's the number that I'm doing, okay? So that is the debit to the buyer, and that is also the credit to the seller, okay? So that is the situation there. Is there any other questions on this one, okay? Because what we'll do is we'll do one in arrears as well, okay? We'll do one in arrears as well. So, let's take a look. Yeah, a couple people are getting it. Okay, awesome. Okay. So, yeah, so you count July. So what happens is this. We're talking about, so someone asked about how we're counting the calculations in the calendar, right? because we're talking about, look at the timeline here. You ready? I'm going to show you on the timeline. You got to watch the timeline. The seller paid in advance here for the whole year. So from January to July 4th, seller's totally responsible for that. So January to July 4th, we're not counting that because the seller's already taken care of that. They've already paid that. That's what they're responsible for. But what happens is this. What we're trying to figure out is this. We're trying to figure out this number right here, okay? Because the buyer needs to be basically responsible for this amount, okay? So if it's sold on the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4 equals 4, and it's sold on the 5th. That's why I did 4 days, because the seller's responsible for 4 days. So the buyer is responsible for 26 in July. So that's the situation there. Yeah, and also make sure you're punching this into your calculator numerous times. Okay, that's super important. Okay, so guys, fantastic. We're gonna go to, actually, do you know what we're gonna do? We're not gonna do an arrears one just yet because I want to do a different kind of problem. I want to make sure that we get in a bunch of different ones. Okay, so here's a good one. You ready? Because a lot of you guys get questions like this. You will understand the this concept too, because this is one you do have to get down. Okay? Home sold for $314,000. If the town assesses for tax purposes at 73% to value, what would the annual taxes be if the mill rate was 6 2/3? Yeah. So, about this. Let's talk about this. So, tax rates. So, they're going to give you tax rates. They're going to talk about millage. They're going to talk about all this kinds of stuff. So, let me ask you this, okay? What is 1 mil? What is 1 mil? Okay, what is 1 mil? Okay, what is 1 mil? Type it in the chat if you're with me, if you're current. Okay, you haven't paused it, okay? Someone said this is a rude question. And think about it. How devilish must I be if I just came up with it off the top of my brain? Like I said, the evil laugh comes out for the math sessions, okay? The evil laugh. And give me a thumbs up. Listen, if you haven't already hit the like button, at least hit the like button for the evil laugh, right? So, 1 mil, and we're going to kind of move this over to the side so that we can put our millage up here, right? We can put a cute little millage post-it note up here. So, 1 mil, okay? 1 mil is 1 over 1,000. Okay? So 1 over 1,000 is 1 mil. Okay? Now, how do we calculate the taxes? Okay? How do we calculate the taxes? All right, so we're going to figure this out right over here. We're going to get a bigger post-it note, okay? Bigger post-it note, and we're going to do some math. So, Monique said, you're awesome, Stu. No, you guys are awesome. Like I said, you guys are sticking with me in math. So, and you're doing this voluntarily. Like, you could be sitting there in your kitchen making grilled cheese sandwiches, but you're here with me. I mean, listen. And maybe you guys are listening to this and you are making grilled cheese sandwiches. And if you are, double win, okay? So, we have to figure out the assessed value, right? $314,000. And what we're going to do is we're going to multiply that by the tax rate, by the assessed rate, which is 0.73. And that is the easy part. That is the easy part, right? That's usually the easy part, finding the assessed value. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to find the assessed value. So 314,000 times 0.73 equals 229,220. Now, the taxes are going to be the tax rate multiplied by the assessed value. Now listen, okay, and that equals your annual taxes, okay? But now what you guys are probably saying is, Stu, I don't know how to get 6 2/3 mill rate into a decimal or into a number that I can multiply by the 229,220. Well, I got you, okay? Understand this. Whenever you see a fraction, listen, I'm going to take you back to better times, to when you were eating grilled cheese sandwiches all the time. We're going to talk about what a fraction is. A fraction, 2/3, is really just 2 divided by 3. So if we just type into the calculator 2 divided by 3, we would get 0.67. So what happens is this. The mill rate is this. Watch, I'm going to show you. 6.67 divided by 1,000. Okay. Oh, everybody, you got to do the collective. Wow, I got it. Ooh, you got to type that into the chat. It doesn't work. You don't get the brain power unless you do that. So 6.67, we divide it by 1,000. Okay. And that would give you 0.00667. Okay. So listen to me. Do not. I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Don't move decimals. My wife is a doctor. She doesn't move decimals. She makes her calculator do it. If my wife doesn't move decimals, here's what I know about myself. Because she saw me doing math one day, and she saw me moving the decimal, okay? She saw me moving the decimal, and this is what she said to me. She goes, Stu, why are you moving the decimal? She said, you're probably going to make a manual error. And I said, no, I got this. And lo and behold, as if karma was just nipping me in the tuchus, okay? As if karma was nipping me in the tuchus, I made a manual error. And then she said, you see? She said, I am a very smart person. I go, you are the smartest person I know. And she said, thank you. And then she said, I don't move the decimal because I'm going to make a manual error. She said, so if you're, and this is what she said to me. She said, so if your little pea brain is going to start moving decimals, she's like, don't do it. So I then always just basically said, bottom line is this. I don't move decimals. I let my calculator do it. So that is the situation there. So we're going to do 6.67, which is 6 2/3. And we're going to divide it by 1,000, okay? And that's what we're going to get. So the tax rate, as represented as a number, is 0.00667, okay? And here's what happens. We are then going to multiply, because now we know what's going on. 0.00667 times the assessed value of 229,220. It's going to give us what? What kind of math is it going to be? Daniel said, you and your wife seem epic. Epic. We are epic. She's listen, she completes me. She keeps me on my toes, okay? 229,220 is going to give you a value of 1,528.9. I'm just going to call it 0.9 because I'm going to round, okay? All right? Don't hate me on that. So guys, take a look at that. Tell me if you see that, if you get that, if that kind of light went off there, okay? So here's the thing. Take it slow. Don't rush through things. And also, too, guys, I don't know why your real estate schools focus so much on the formulas, Use your brain power. Do you see how in a lot of this I haven't really used or basically stressed the situations with, using, because we actually haven't even done a commission problem yet, because guess what? You guys should know how to do commission problems, but I'm going to try to get you at least a commission problem before we end. And just so you know, I probably have maybe 2 or 3 more questions in me. So if there is a question that you want to see me do, type it into the chat, because I'd be more than happy to write one for you right on the spot, okay? Yeah, we are writing math questions for you as we are going along. So I have no problem doing that. And what I will tell you is this. And the reason why I probably have a little bit of time left, because my voice is going, okay? So I want to try to chuck along. Discount points. Hannah, you put a question in there, and guess what? Discount points it is, okay? So This kind of reminds me of the Ghostbusters movies from the 80s where they basically said, think of the form of your destroyer. And then they're like, empty your mind, don't think of anything. And then all of a sudden, thought of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. So if you think of discount points, then guess what? That's where it is. So Holmes sells for, let's say, $375,000. Okay. If the borrower, we'll call it the buyer. If the buyer is approved for a loan with an LTV of 85%, how much would he have to pay in discount points if the lender were to charge 3 points? Okay. So while you're thinking about that and you're kind of chewing on that for a little bit, okay, let's put a little post-it note here so that we kind of could say a couple things, okay? Okay. The situation is going to be this. 1 point equals 1% of the loan, okay? And Black Magic asks, can you do a commission problem where it's split with you, a team you're on, and the broker? I'm going to probably skip that because although very practical, the real estate test will not break it down like 5 ways like that, or like more than one way. It's always going to be agent broker. Like that's basically going to be the splits, okay? So let's take a look at where we're going to go first. You ready? So, someone said, I'm on fire. Whew, I am. I'm feeling the fire. I'm feeling the burn, okay? Feeling the burn. So, let's look at this, okay? Let's look at what we're going to do as far as a process, okay? Someone said seller's net. Ooh, that actually might be a great question. I think I might go into that next. I really like that. So get your seller net hats on. I think that's where I'm going to go. So the first thing that we're going to do is we have to figure out how much the loan is, right? Because if we said a point equals 1% of the loan, then we have to figure out how much the loan is. So what happens is this. $375,000. We're going to have to multiply it by 85%. So that's going to be represented as a decimal as 0.85, okay? So 0.85 times 375,000 equals 318,000, okay? I want to put a dollar sign there because my neuroses are going to get bad, okay, if I don't do that. 750, all right? And now what happens is they're going to charge 3 points, okay? The 3 discount points that they're going to charge is basically 3% of the loan amount. So keep that in mind. A point is 1% of the loan. So you have to multiply it by 318,750, okay? And now, what that equals is this, okay? Let's take a look. And the reason why we multiplied it by 85%, just so you guys know, because I don't know if I kind of went into that too much, the loan to value is what percent of the value the loan is going to be. So when we multiply 375,000 by 85%, that's how we get the loan amount right there. So that's the thought process behind the first section of that. So now we have 3% times 318,750 equals $9,562.50. Okay? So $9,562.50 is going to be how much you're going to have to pay in points. Give me a thumbs up if you got that, if you like that one. Okay? Was that a good one to ask you guys on the fly? Yeah, Daniel. So I hope that you got that because I saw you ask that question about how we got the loan, okay? So, someone said they're going to replay this video 1,000,000 times, okay? Absolutely. And then by the end of it, what happens is you have to practice your Stu Evil laugh, okay? You have to practice, Okay, sometimes I do that to my dogs. My dogs think it's the greatest thing in the world. They're like, "Oh my god, it's the evil laugh time." They think the evil laugh. They don't know that the evil laugh means math. They just know that I'm gonna sit in my office a lot, and then they're just gonna be able to sit on the bed or on the couch in my office. So they love evil laugh time. They're like, "Oh my god!" So like when you guys are getting tortured with the math, they're sitting there. They're like, they probably have their happy face on. They're like, "Oh my god, this is amazing. He's doing that weird laugh again. Oh, we love when the fat guy does that." So let's keep moving and grooving. Let's do a seller net problem, shall we? Because you guys asked for it. So you guys asked for it, and I hope you like that I'm writing these questions on the fly. I hope you listen. If not for anything, I hope you guys appreciate the time and effort and energy it takes to do this. So again, I'm going to ask you guys to please support me. Please make sure you hit that like button, okay? And make sure you're showing your love for this. Share this out with people in your class that are trying to, that are trying to pass the test too. Share Prep Agent out there because, like I said, I'm doing a lot of great stuff here. We're doing y'allman's work, okay? And I'm telling you, it really means a lot to me when you hit that like button. You come here in the chat, you participate, and like I said, I understand that some of you guys are watching this on replay afterwards because you have things going on. And I want to tell you guys this too. If you're watching this on replay, I really do appreciate you guys watching this. Please, if you do have any questions, you could always go over. Keep in mind, I'm going to tell you this because in the private tutoring section, you could message me or Cynthia, okay? And we're always more than happy to take questions, okay? So we're always more than happy to take questions. Bottom line is this, we're always going to be able to try to help you as best as we can. But something else I tell you guys too, and I tell this really often, the situation is this: if you guys do want to make private tutoring a part of your study habits, okay, a part of your study plan, then please schedule sooner rather than later, okay? Because we do book up. We book out about a week in advance. So keep that in mind. So if you guys, I know a lot of people miss out because they're like, "Hey, I have my test tomorrow. Do you have any time today?" Nay, says the good Stu. Nay, I do not. And that's not because I don't want to do it. It's because I'm booked up. I'm booked up solid. So is there a fee for asking a question? Yes, you must hit the like button. Then you could email me a question. I have no problem answering a question here and there. So absolutely. So let's take a look at the next question. We'll do a seller net question. Okay. Seller wants to net $54,000 for the sale of his home. He has to pay off an existing mortgage of $120,000. He will also have to include a commission of 7.5% to Stu. How much does the home have to sell for? How much does the home have to sell for? So, seller wants to net $54,000 for the sale of his home. Now, there's a couple ways that you could approach this, okay? So, first way that you could approach this, just so you know, okay? And I'm going to take you through each way. First way that you could approach this is you could start by looking at the answers and and go backwards, okay? But Stu didn't give you the answers. So we have to go one way. There's only one way through this, all right? And what we have to do is we have to go forward and we have to do this the Stu way. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to show you how you do a seller net problem. And it's actually not too difficult once you know. Because as soon as you know how to do a seller net problem, every seller net problem is the same. So if basically they say the seller wants to net or something like that, you should be like going, "Oh, this is probably a seller net problem." So what's the difference? Listen to what I'm going to ask you guys in the chat. What's the difference between a gross and a net? What's the difference between gross and net? And Natalie said, "This is the type of question on the exam for sure, and I got it wrong." Well, now Now you're going to get it right, okay? And what is the requirement once you're a part of the Stew Crew is that when you see a sell or net question, you absolutely crush it on the test. Right after you click the button to submit the test, you have to do a little evil laugh too. You have to go, wow, because now you're going to nail it, okay? So let's take a look at this. So situation is gross is like the total, okay? Net is what they're going to have like after all expenses, right? So watch this. We're gonna make a small little thing here, and let me show you how we do this. So the seller wants to net $54,000, right? Then they're going to have to pay off an existing mortgage of $120,000. So if they're going to have to pay off a mortgage of $120,000, wouldn't you agree with me? Wouldn't you agree with me that they not only need to make $54,000, they also have to get $154,000, right? So we're going to add those two numbers up, and we're going to get. Let me see. We're going to get $174,000, right? That's me doing my math. $174,000. So listen to me, guys. We're going to put this up here. You ready? We're going to put this up there, okay? So we have $174,000, okay? And now here's the situation, okay? Here's the situation. That would be the number that we need after a 7.5% commission is taken out of whatever the magical number is. So listen to what I'm going to tell you, and I need you to watch this, okay? So 100% equals the selling price. Right? 100% equals the selling price. Okay, just follow me. This number right up here, the 174,000, is not representative of the selling price. It is representative of 7.5% less than the selling price. So we're going to take 100. We're going to subtract 100 minus 7.5. That's going to give us 92.5%. Now watch what I'm going to show you, okay? So 92.5%. So if I knew what the selling price was, I would take 92.5% and multiply it by the selling price. And then I would get 174,000. Right. So you see, you guys are getting it. I know you are, okay? Because you guys are smart. You're part of the Stew Crew, okay? I don't let you guys fail. That's something that you got to realize about me. I have absolute love for you guys, so I'm not letting you fail. So you guys are going to stick with me. That's why I tell you, listen, I have to keep moving and grooving. If you need to pause this, you need to rewind this, or you need to watch something else, or even if you need to watch someone else explain this, like you need to go back and watch a Joe video, for the math, we have them up here. They're in the Prep Agent system. And also, we have a ton of them in the members section. So what happens is we don't know the selling price. If we knew the selling price, this would be super easy, but we don't, okay? Because it says how much does the home have to sell for, okay? So here's what happens. We would actually divide each side, okay? We would divide 174,000 by, okay, 92.5%. So that would be 0.925. And watch this, okay? Isn't there a shortcut for this? Yes, you could actually probably multiply each one of the answers by 92.5%. Or what you could do is this: you could actually get to a point where you could actually take 7.5% commission out and figure out which one would give you, okay, which one would give you the what was I going to say? Would give you the selling price, and that's the situation there. So let's look at this one, and it's going to be, okay, it's going to be this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this math problem right now. Okay. So divide it by 0.925, okay, equals 188,108, okay? So, guys, I am going to end on that note because I just got a phone call from my wife. We are actually, and I'm going to tell you because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you some love and I'm going to tell you some things that are going on with me because I know you guys go through a lot of crazy stuff. And I just, like I said, I treat you like family. And I want you to know I had every intention of going for 2 hours, but I'm going to cut it 20 minutes short. My wife we're actually going through IVF treatment right now. So we're trying to start a family and she just called me. I'm hoping with some good news. So hopefully there's a mini stew someday down the road. Okay. And I'm going to gladly give you, yeah, absolutely, happy wife, happy life. So that's why I wanted to tell you, I wanted to give you this. I don't know if I have a baby yet. I don't know. There might be a mini stew. Listen, and then what happens is we'll have to be practicing. We'll have to be practicing the evil laugh, okay? So, and also too, guys, I think that an hour and 40 minutes of math, that is a darn good time. That is a darn good time. So that's a sign, and I think that's a and you know what? Like I said, you're bringing a tear to my eye. You guys are putting positive thoughts out there. That's why I want to share that with you because you know I do that every once in a while. I put myself out there because I know you guys. Listen, you guys are going through a ton with studying for the exam, and you know me virtually. If we were in a classroom setting, I mean, literally, I'm a hugger. I'm a high fiver. I wish that you guys could get a hug, get a high five from me. But the only thing that I could do is kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, tell you where I am, tell you what's going on. And guess what? You know what? I would love, imagine if I have a baby and down the road, I sit here and I show them the math webinar. I'm like, this is when I found out that you were here. Or, you know, I sit there and I push it off to the side and be like, no, this is attempt number 7, you know? But let's say we have some good blessings out there. We throw out some good vibes. And like I said, guys, I'm throwing out so much love and appreciation for you guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Someone said evil laugh. Yeah, we're gonna have to practice the evil laugh. So so guys, we are done for today, and remember, hit that like button, hit subscribe, show me some love. And guys, I hope this helped you out. We're going to have more of these to come. So, you know, like I said, have a fantastic rest of your day. And thank you so much for the well wishes. Really do appreciate it. Really do. And like I said, you guys, I treat you like family. I hope that this helped some of you guys. And remember, watch this on replay. Really important to us. And yeah, family is everything. That's why I said, hey, guess what? I'm going to cut it 20 minutes short. I was going to give you an extra 20 minutes, but I'll do that on another day. So guys, have a fantastic day. I'm going to see you guys real soon. Have a great one.